Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello, and welcome to Holy Crap, We Need to Record an Episode.
Look at me, my hair. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It has been one of those therapy days for both of us where it has encroached
alive and kicking. Yes,
we're alive and kicking.
We're diving right in. Yes.
We're going to go into something we've been talking about, like, hey, whenever we need to just do a fun episode,
yes,
let's talk about Love is Blind. It's like, ooh, I don't know how big of a fan you guys are, but it is by far my favorite dating show.
It's
all the way through.
This season also. So I loved Ultimatum because I love 20-year-olds that are like, if you don't propose to me, I'm leaving. They're like, I'm like, your frontal lobe isn't even developed. Have you considered letting that develop before you marry someone? But fine. Love is Blind. Wild concept. Obviously, I'm sure people have heard of it, but if not, there are pods. You don't know what the person looks like. They ask 900 questions to try to gauge how you look. Do you think I could pick you up if we were on a date? Like, if somebody said you were a celebrity lookalike, who would it be? They ask because they're curious, but they present a facade, as I'm sure a lot of us do in dating, but they don't get to see the person. It's a rapid attachment. It's a rapid conversation. They could be anything they want. They meet, and much like when we get to go on online dating and we meet someone if we're getting catfished, we have this gut reaction of like, this isn't who I thought it was, whether it would be looks or on the date they disclose something. With Love is Blind, my fascination and like where I'm like, oh, of course, there's this duty and buy-in, like we're going to get engaged. So it's this forced choice of like, I have to make it work. And you see that in this season, how many of the women are in the, I have to make this work. And the dudes are garbage, to be quite honest, for the most part, and major red flags. Like the
casting directors did everyone dirty. Like, come on, like there's no way that they didn't have therapists and psychologists like looking over, because
this was for the plot.
This feels like, it feels like mail order bride status where you're just
yes, this is like 90 Day Fiance meets, what was that show on MTV, the Next Bus?
Yes,
that's what this feels like. That is what this feels like. And these poor Alex, who says everything without saying anything necessarily, realistically. Oh gosh, let me track your cycle, but not. The other guy who's like, I make a ton of money, and she's like, oh my gosh, so we're not going to break up, and he's like, no, I'm over it. Just the amount of red flags on this season alone make for great TV, but terrible when you think about the desperation level people have to go on these shows.
You know, I was having a conversation with a client actually about this.
Yeah,
because this client is navigating a lot of the dating apps. And I'll never forget, they just sort of said out loud, they're like, it's not really desperation. This is the dating world. And, you know, I hate to agree because I'm not actively dating, so I don't know, but I'm getting it from everyone else that I'm working with.
It is.
It's like, it feels like.
Pick the best garbage.
Well, this was my take on it. Is it pick the best garbage, or do you have normally the people who are willing to put in the least amount of effort are going to the highest amount of reward apps, right? So like you've got
exposure.
People who,
true.
Like these people couldn't stand to go and spend an evening or have the vulnerability of like walking up and asking someone out.
They want it convenient.
And so they just swipe, heart, connect, whatever it is. And it's like, well, I think that's why you got the trash individuals. Because on the other end of the spectrum, I also have plenty of men and women who want to get in the dating world, but they say it looks like such a shit show. I'm not willing to participate.
It's I will say a lot, hopefully without saying too much. It's so bad. I've stopped entirely, but it is so bad and makes me some days think back to the days when I was still in the partnership and was considering getting out in that stay or go phase, that I'm like, you know what, it'll be fine. I'm looking forward to dating, whatever else. So you knew how bad it was to be looking forward to dating. Then you know how bad dating is now to be like, maybe that wasn't that bad. You know all the details. It was terrible. That is this.
That bad.
Yes, it was that bad, but that's the juxtaposition of like, that's what I'm saying, because I am in the dating world, whatever, pick your garbage. Like it's not to say that every relationship is going to be trash. I want to be clear on that. But if you are in the, I'm not in a relationship and now I'm going out and dating, you have to sift through a lot of, you have to kiss a lot of frogs, so to speak, and sift through a lot before you can find a person that you feel compatible with. But that's the meme we've talked about before. Online dating is so unnatural in a way because it connects you, universal woo woo, it connects you to people you otherwise never should have met, maybe. So there's something to be said for putting yourself out there, but who are you attracting if you're not being intentional? And this show, what else did they expect, right? Like with Love is Blind, it's clearly not. And what else did they expect? It's a forced choice and you feel obligated for whatever reason. I have to see it through. Thankfully, they get to choose at the end. It's not like once you leave the pod, you sign, court paperwork. That would be insane. I think a very big liability. But this is unfortunately what society has kind of devolved into, is having it be fodder or sport, if you will. It's entertainment, which you and I both know as marriage therapists. It's not entertainment.
No,
it's not. Not that everything is doom and gloom, to be honest, but there are other ways of meeting somebody where it isn't as forced. You get to know them naturally and filter in or filter out. Had they met these people in person, out and about, I don't think that they would have gone for one another, to be quite honest. For the most of them, just based off of looks, from what they've unfolded, definitely not. And their behaviors, the little the Gollum looking one, Chris, whatever his name is.
Yes.
When he was talking to the girl, she's a catch, by the way. I would date her. Amazing catch, well-rounded, awesome. And when they're chatting at the end, well, you never checked on, how's work going? Miserable. I thought we were going to get married and I had to go focus. Oh, well, you didn't check on me. And then she has a reaction and you can see him grin. He's like happy he got a reaction. And she's like, well, all you did was check if I was alive or not. Like the red pill potential poisoning that has been happening, mixed with the low effort, mixed with, well, I don't have to put in a lot of effort and I still get girls throwing themselves at me. We've talked about this, you and I, a lot. That's the concern, is everybody else co-signing all of this is what makes this continue. And those kinds of behaviors, Love is Blind or not, let me just settle because I've spent some time with this person. I think that's the risk we run with these shows normalizing it. And this season really highlights that. Nobody was like, the girls were for the most part, but none of those dudes, in my opinion, were like a stellar catch that embodied all kinds of emotional availability, attunement, provider status, emotional maturity, any kind of common sense, like red flags all around.
You pretty much said it. Like,
how does this relate for our listeners in terms of when they're dating and what they're like, where they,
what I got out of this season, I thought that they did the best was, it's like, I'll say the first season of Love is Blind was like the pinnacle of it. And I think it was just the first one and it was such a novel idea.
True.
But what I've started to see throughout the seasons is there's this pivot point where this season was the first season that I felt like out of the gate when they were in the pods, I was like, oh, wow, they are communicating or verbalizing what they think the other one wants to hear.
Yes.
Like it felt like deception from the start. And that's why everyone was so surprised when the pods dropped away. And we were like, oh, because it was like, you weren't actually saying what you wanted to be with. You were saying what you thought that the other person wanted to be with.
Yeah.
And so none of the hard questions happened till it was like way too late. And again, it also just shows you that these relationships that are built on fantasy at the beginning very rarely can ever structurally right themselves when you start applying real life. Like if we start off on a lie, it's going to be a lie.
Yes. And that is evident in Love is Blind, the other dating shows, and online dating. I would say in meeting in person to some degree, I'm going to present myself a certain way. I'm going to ask certain leading questions to, well, what are you looking for? Oh, great. I'm looking for that too. How did you, what if my answer were, I just want a casual one night stand? Would you also be looking for that too? Like, this is where the whole filter, I'm just going to listen for what I want to hear.
Yes.
It's going to be everybody's undoing in dating and not
Absolutely.
hearing what they're actually saying and reacting to that. That is the best dating advice. Love is blind or not, whether you meet in a pod or at a bar or at a gym class, what is the person actually saying? Not what are you filling in the blank, or, oh, if I said that, I would mean this and that, and I'm going to make a decision based off of that. No, you have to be very clear on what you want and lead with it and filter from there.
Absolutely.
But they're on a TV show. If they didn't like any of, I would probably be the worst on that show. I'd be like, next. We've joked that if I was on The Bachelorette, that's the one where she's the one. And it'd be like, I'm just actually going to send you all home. I'd like to meet your parents. It would have
been a single episode, and they would have had to scrap to put together 30 minutes.
John Wick meets The Bachelorette of like psychological evisceration, and they would have just left all crying. And I'm like, well, sorry. And they're like, that was the fastest season we've ever had. The parents would be like, thank you. We'll be in next week. It'd be great. It'd be great TV. It just wouldn't be the outcome that everybody in America is wanting. I would love it. It would be great to watch. But that is the level of dedication I think we should have in dating to, if our intention is a serious relationship, we need to be more ruthless in cutting off people in the beginning, right? It's quick to fire, slow to hire, I think is the lexicon.
It's slow to hire, fast to fire.
Yeah. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewireyourrelationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
How does something as satirical as Love is Blind pour into our real lives, right? Yes. And I think that the first thing is also, when you look at the beginning of the pods, is there's such nervousness that neither one of them requires each other to like provide any receipts. Like you said, like you nailed it. Something that you just said was extremely intimidating. So were you just looking for casual sex, or are you looking for a relationship? Like, which one? The fact that that doesn't come up in our conversations when we're dating blows my mind. Of like, when someone says something, you know what? Be inquisitive. Tell me more about that. Like, what would that look like? You know, like, because I hear it all the time in the way of like, oh, well, I'm looking for something casual, but I want to be in a committed relationship. Like, that's weird. Those two things seem to be at an odds. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. Like, instead of let me pivot to the next distraction.
Mm-hmm. I want what I want when I want it, but I also don't want to make commitments and give you what you want and need necessarily, because it's all about me. And those types of people, the takers usually match with somebody who is like, oh, I want to give, I wanted this, I want, oh my gosh, I like the fawn response they get a lot from giving to others. It's that narcissistic codependency, like human magnet syndrome that we've talked about by Ross Rosenberg. I think in some ways that plays out in the reality shows as well as online dating. There is a bit of pageantry or narcissism. I think that's not diagnostically speaking, but just like self-centeredness or inflated ego that goes with online dating. We're putting our best photos forward. That goes with being on a show. That's attention seeking in and of itself. There's already a subset of the population willing to go on dating shows. They are different from other people who would be like, over my dead body would I want to go on a show. So they're already off to a unique start in a self-selection of their dating pool. Same thing with people who are meeting on online dating. Being clear about what your intentions are on that show, the goal was, okay, I want to, be married. With online dating, people can say whatever they want or change their mind along the way, obviously. But for the most part, if you're talking to somebody and they're pitching, what do you want? And it matches exactly with what you describe, ask them first. That would be my suggestion is like, I'm, this would be ideal, but what about you? Or I'm curious what makes you ask that. What about you? Make them answer first and then see if that's congruent on the first or second date if it gets that far. I say that because recently I had to cut someone loose because what was from the beginning, the first date, second date did not align. And I caught the red flag on the second date because I was listening very intently. And I was like, and my body literally clammed up, like intuition came up. And I was
feel
like,
yourself defense mechanism.
Yep. I was like, and this is why you're single and a single parent and a this and a that. And I wasn't shaming. I didn't say this. It was all internal. And I'm like, and we're done. And we're done. So if you listen clearly for what they are both saying and not saying, then you'll have your answers. Same thing within the pods. That's what I do appreciate about the Love is Blind aspect. They're forcing conversation about potentially serious topics that would have otherwise taken time to get to. Can't force honesty, I know, but the topics that get brought up from having that psychological intimacy, we can adopt that tenet and ask those serious questions way earlier on. I remember months ago, I went on another date with a guy and our dinner was very pleasant, like checked all the boxes, very respectful, not necessarily my type, but was willing to date out of it because how I'm treated is most important, especially in this season. And we aligned on a lot of the things. We talked about like religion and values and upbringing and money. And that like a lot of the things arranged marriages cover before, not that I was looking for that. And it felt really great to know that there are people out there that I'm aligned with. The piece that was missing was the like physical attraction that I'd love to be friends with that guy, but there wasn't anything on my end more than that. But I'm glad we addressed all those major topics ahead of time because it allowed me to be like, okay, I really have a good sense.
Absolutely.
There's no stone we left unturned. I'm not interested. I'm not going to move forward versus other people I've dated. We've had that chat. We align on a lot. I am attracted. I get to the second or third date. A red flag inevitably comes up or a disclosure that I can filter for. And I'm like, and this is where I leave you. So being discerning and having more intense conversations earlier doesn't mean all this traumatic self-disclosure. Talk about the things you think will be a hurdle from the beginning. You could like somebody and think they're the hottest person in the world. Come to find out they're about to move to Brazil in a month. Why, if you want marriage and kids and you're going to settle down here, that's a non-starter. Correct. So use the tactics from Love is Blind in terms of those topics of conversations. Start those early and often to discover you could be compatible, but other things could make it a non-starter. It's better to find out you're a non-starter sooner rather than waste 6 to 8 months of each of your lives and then be like, this isn't who I thought I wanted to be with. Yeah. So that would be my piece of advice. Yes, you can use the core tenets, but maybe Love is Blind should be like with a therapist. And I've seen this reel and the girl is sitting, she's like, it should be with a therapist. You should walk in the pod and on the other side should be a therapist asking you, why the fuck are you on this show? And I think that would be a great one. And you and I would be awesome at
please that. I would love Netflix to be a part of this, so please let me know how I can help you.
I would love to be the interviewer on the other side of like, can you tell me just like super briefly, name 3 words that describe your childhood? How do you feel about both of your parents? Are they married? No?
Can
okay.
you draw me a house, tree,
yes.
and a person?
Yeah. You picked, okay. Orange. All right. Very interesting, right? That's a very deep shading on your tree. You started from the top, not the bottom. That says something, right?
Exactly.
Obviously, people who have administered the HTP know that all means something. We would know faster. You can date. You can date like a detective or a therapist in the sense of ask those questions you're afraid to ask from the start because you don't want to jeopardize anything. Jeopardize it. Like put it at
absolutely
risk
if there was anything to throw on the fire,
yes.
it's this crappy relationship you don't even have.
Yes.
Okay. And I hate to say it that way, but this is what people like. This is my advice. My advice is start listening in complete sentences.
Yes.
Okay. Because so many people listen to just what they want to hear and like, here. No, actually, all the parts that you are wondering and fearing that this person may have in them is probably what they're finishing their sentences with. I'm not here to be jaded. I'm just like, listen to the entire phrase. not just the highlighted versions.
Mm-hmm.
Because then we can start to have deeper conversations. And just like you had that epiphany on that one date, you start to put it together. Wait a second. You just said this. This is confusing. How did, like, this is the crazy thing about relationships. They kind of work in reverse at the beginning, which is you have the ability to ask every question at the beginning of a relationship, yet we don't. We slow our roll, right? We just we stay in what's going to be either a softball pitch back and forth, and it's easy. In reality, if I can't start a relationship off talking about the hardest things between us, I probably don't need to be in that relationship.
True. Yeah, true.
Now, it does take a level of vulnerability and a level of also security, like in yourself, to be able to do that. But I'm telling you, if you start dating with nothing to lose, you actually end up having a very positive dating experience.
True. And if you match your nothing to lose level with I'm not taking shit anymore, that's where I'm at. It's such a perfect spot to be at, because if it happens, great. But if not, I like my life. And so far, everybody I've dated and cut loose, I sometimes just forget their names. Like,
exactly. It's not mean.
Who was
it's
it?
just I'm not invested.
I'm clearly not invested if my life is not impacted positively or negatively by your absence or presence. And I'm not saying that to sound flippant or cold.
Yeah.
I do put my effort and I look forward to the date but I filter and I'm like, yeah, I check in with my nervous system. Like, nope. Like, is this a yes or a no? And if it's a no, I energetically disconnect and move forward. I think that's the other key piece.
Basically, if you're on the date with Talia and she breaks out the cigarettes, you realize the date's over and she's just enjoying her drink. like the old red pack of Marlboros. So it's just going to be one. It's just going to be a drink. All right.
I'm happy to get impromptu data for my, reports. Yeah. Yeah. No, I try not to be a therapist on my dates, but I do have to ask those. I choose rather to ask those questions that a lot of the ones on Love is Blind do, but I am not, the love for me is not blind or deaf or any of the other. I have all my 5 faculties and senses and my 6th sense online. Yeah. And I date with all of those senses present.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the best way to go about it. So last piece of advice, really, try not to mimic the Love is Blind by getting too involved too soon on dating apps, chatting back and forth. True. Because by the time you show up on the date, you feel an obligation to continue it when you otherwise wouldn't had you not chatted a ton. Save communication for scheduling, exchange numbers only before the first date. I can't tell you how many people this has helped, right before the date, and then go on the date and go from there. Don't do pen pal stuff beforehand. Don't share your life story and pictures and all of this beforehand, because you don't know. You're not objective. You're not, and you don't know what is going to come of it once you go on the date. So it's better to leave things to the date, schedule on the app, exchange numbers before, go on the date, have all your 5 senses and 6th sense of intuition on the date. And then, did I like this enough to get to know them again? Great. Schedule the second date. That's my best advice.
I don't think it's just your best advice. It is probably best practices moving forward. The way that I sort of summarize it in my thought process of, have you ever been to an Airbnb that was terrible, but it had amazing photos?
Yes.
Right. So you go through the process of you see the photos, you read the description, you're already invested, you're imagining yourself in the hot tub. And then guess what? You get to the first date of the Airbnb and it's completely different than you thought it was.
You're like, this isn't even to scale. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. And what's amazing is, what would we do? We'd immediately hop on the platform, ask for a refund,
a move,
book somewhere else and pop. We will sit there for 2 or 3 hours in a date without, like, hey, I'm sorry, these things do not connect. This doesn't match.
Right.
So you're worth protecting. Go ahead and cut yourself loose.
Yeah. Don't stay just because you rented the place. You don't have to stay in a date or a partnership. You can just leave. Like, you don't need to be rude, obviously, but you could say, like, this isn't, and you don't need to go. So you could be like, this isn't what I thought it would be. I really appreciate your time and showing up, but I'm going to leave. I'm never going to see them again. Why do I care what they think about me? So we'll leave you with that. Thank you
So
for listening.
be your individual, beautiful, vicious selves, and we will catch you on a different time.
Yes, and go back and listen to our other episodes if you need more, because this one was quickie. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.